wasn't supposed to happen again. But when pride, revenge, and legacy collide, history doesn't just repeat, it explodes. The rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn isn't just a boxing event. It's a collision of two bloodlines soaked in rivalry, respect, and unfinished business. This fight carries ghosts of the past, pressure of the present, and the unpredictable chaos that defines boxing itself. Both men walk into this moment with something far bigger than belts on the line. They're fighting for names, for fathers, for identity. When Eubank Jr. steps into that ring, he's not just fighting Benn, he's fighting to preserve a legacy carved by his father, a man who once ruled the ring with cold precision and fearless charisma. And on the other side stands Conor Benn, the son of a warrior who fought Eubank Sr. in one of British boxing's most emotional rivalries. For Conor, this isn't just about revenge. It's about rewriting history and proving he's more than just his father's shadow. The first encounter between their families left scars that never really healed. Eubank and Benn, two names that can't exist in the same sentence without tension. Their fathers battled decades ago in fights that defined an era, fights that blurred the line between competition and personal war. And now, years later, the sons are standing in the same storm. When the first fight between Jr. and Benn happened, fans called it electric. The atmosphere was unreal, the punches personal. But when the dust settled, there was no closure, just questions. Both men walked away knowing something wasn't finished. Time passed, words were exchanged, and the world started asking the same thing. Who's really better? That's when the press conferences turned into battlegrounds. It started like any other face-off. Cameras flashing, microphones crowding the table, journalists waiting for their headlines. But then Chris Eubank Sr. stepped in, calm, sharp, and unfiltered. He sent a warning that sliced through the room like lightning. He wasn't just talking to Conor Benn, he was lecturing him. He said things that weren't just about boxing, but about life, respect, and legacy. The kind of talk only a man who's lived through both triumph and tragedy could deliver. But Conor Benn didn't back down. His fire lit up instantly. You could feel the heat in his words. "Don't talk about my life," he snapped, his voice steady but full of rage. It wasn't a show, it was real. He wasn't going to let anyone, not even a legend, question who he was or what he stood for. That was the first sign. This fight wasn't just about skill. It was personal on every level. From that moment, the psychological warfare began. Every headline, every interview, every tweet became ammunition. Eubank's camp used mind games to break Benn's focus, to paint him as reckless and emotional. Benn's team fired back, calling Eubank arrogant, detached, robotic. What started as trash talk turned into a mental arms race. And the strange thing is, both sides were right in their own way. Eubank carries that cold composure of a man who's seen too much to care what anyone says. Benn carries that fire of someone who's had to fight for every ounce of respect he's earned. Behind the scenes, training camps turned into war zones of their own. For Eubank Jr., everything changed the moment he brought in Brian Bomack McIntyre, the mastermind behind some of boxing's most successful champions. This wasn't just a coaching move. It was a statement. It meant Eubank wasn't playing the old games anymore. He wasn't relying on his name or his natural talent. He was rebuilding, stripping everything down and starting again. Every sparring session became a test. Every round a reminder that the only way forward was total commitment. No shortcuts. No ego, just precision, control, and strategy. The goal wasn't to look good, it was to dominate. Meanwhile, on the other side, Conor Benn was going through his own transformation. He wasn't smiling for cameras. He wasn't feeding the drama. He disappeared into training, cutting distractions, moving away from familiar comforts. He said it himself. He had lived the fight 100 times in his head. Every day, he visualized Eubank's movements, his rhythm, his timing. He was training not just to fight, but to erase doubt. When he spoke to the press, you could hear the shift. He wasn't emotional anymore. He was focused, locked in. "I live for this," he said, and for once, everyone believed him. But this fight isn't just about who trained harder. It's about who breaks first under the weight of expectation. Boxing isn't a game of muscles, it's a game of minds. That's why every expert in the sport has a different prediction. Eddie Hearn, Duke MC Kenzie, Johnny Nelson, they all see something different in the rematch. Some say Eubank's discipline and ring IQ will control the tempo. Others believe Benn's aggression, his speed, and his hunger will overwhelm him. Even analysts who have watched both fighters for years admit this one is impossible to call. What everyone agrees on, though, is that this isn't going to be a friendly rematch. There's too much emotion in the air, too much history in every punch. Eubank's camp talks about evolution, how this version of Chris is colder, smarter, more calculated. Benn's camp counters with talk of redemption, of lessons learned, of a fighter who refuses to be defined by a single night. And in that contrast lies the magic of boxing. Two men with the same goal, walking entirely different roads to reach it. But beneath the noise, there's something else brewing. Pressure. The kind that doesn't show on a face, but eats away at the soul. Eubank knows that a loss here could mean the end of his shot at greatness. He's been close before, close to world titles, close to legacy-defining wins, but never quite over the line. He's heard the whispers that say he's good but not great, talented but not timeless. This fight is his chance to silence those voices forever. For Conor Benn, the stakes are even heavier. Every time he walks into a ring, the comparisons begin. His father was a warrior, a national icon, a man who wore his heart on his gloves. Conor carries that legacy like a crown made of fire. If he loses again, people won't just question his skill, they'll question his name. And so, both men find themselves fighting not just each other, but their own reflections. Weight cuts, training camps, sleepless nights, it all takes a toll. People see the bright lights in the crowds, but they don't see the exhaustion, the pain, the doubt that creeps in at 3 a.m. when no one's watching. Every fighter has to battle that inner voice whispering that maybe this time it won't go their way. That's why the mental edge matters just as much as the physical one. Eubank's calm confidence comes from experience. He's been through wars, both literal and emotional. He knows how to survive. Benn's strength comes from chaos, from having to fight for everything he's ever had. When you combine those forces, you get a storm no one can predict. Analysts call it a chess match, but it's more like controlled destruction. Every jab, every feint, every step is part of a bigger plan to break the other man's rhythm. And the scary part? Both of them have been here before. They've tasted each other's power. They've studied the tapes. They know what's coming. But in boxing, knowing is never enough. That's what makes this rematch different. Eubank is older now, wiser, but that also means he's carrying the miles of a long career. Benn is faster, hungrier, but still learning how to control that wild energy. One mistake, just one, and it's over. Experts like George Groves warn of something deeper. He says Eubank might already have climbed his mountain, that after his biggest victories, there's nowhere emotionally higher to go. When you've touched your peak, it's hard to find that same fire again. And that's where Benn might have the advantage. For him, this fight isn't about glory, it's about survival. Barry Jones put it bluntly. This fight will hurt both men. There's no easy way out, no simple path to victory. The first fight pushed them to their limits. This one will test what's left. Unless there's an early knockout, fans should expect 12 rounds of sheer brutality, strategy, endurance, and heart colliding in a battle that could change both careers forever. That's the thing about boxing. It's not just about who hits harder. It's about who can keep standing when everything hurts, when every nerve screams to quit. It's about discipline, timing, courage. It's about walking through fear and coming out on the other side with your hands still raised. And that's exactly what makes this rematch so captivating. It's not a grudge match anymore. It's something purer, darker, and more dangerous. Two fighters who know each other too well, fighting not for fame, but for something invisible, validation. As Duke M.C. Kinsey said, the fight isn't just a sporting event. It's a spectacle, a story, a piece of history. The first fight set the bar sky high. The crowd, the energy, the emotion, it was unforgettable. And now, they have to do it again, but bigger. When the lights dim and the crowd roars, you'll see two men step into that ring carrying every scar, every lesson, and every ounce of pride they've got left. The world will hold its breath, waiting for that first punch to land. Because when that bell rings, it's not just about titles. It's about legacy. It's about who learns from the past and who's doomed to repeat it. It's about who's willing to go deeper, to hurt longer, to outthink, outlast, and outfight the other. And when the dust settles, one name will rise. Maybe it'll be Eubank Jr., the master of reinvention, proving once again that control beats chaos. Or maybe it'll be Conor Benn, the firebrand son rewriting the family story that started decades ago. Either way, the night won't just crown a winner, it'll write a new chapter in boxing history. The stage is set. The bloodlines are ready. The world is watching. When the bell rings, all that matters is who still stands when the echoes fade. This isn't just another rematch, this is redemption, revenge, and revelation, all wrapped into one unforgettable night.